Yeah, hi everybody. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. We're going to do Matthew 24 relative to the subject, the good news of the Armageddon. Let's go.
Chapter 24. Now as Jesus was departing from the temple, his disciples approached to show him the buildings of the temple. In response, he said to them,
"Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, by no means will a stone be left here upon a stone, and not be thrown down."
While he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples approached him privately, saying,
"Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your presence and of the conclusion of the system of things?"
Now they've asked two questions. When will these things be? And what will be the sign of your presence and the conclusion of the system of things? So what will be the sign of your presence and the conclusion of the system of things? These are the questions that they've asked, and these are the questions that Jesus is going to set out to answer. Let's see what happens.
He misleads you. For many will come on the basis of my name, saying, "I am the Christ," and will mislead many. You are going to hear of wars and reports of wars.
So the first warning is don't be misled by people saying that they're the Christ, or here he is, or there he is. But, you know, that's going on all over the world at the moment, particularly in this organization. Rumors and wars and things, that's all coming through the media.
See that you are not alarmed, for these things must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be food shortages and earthquakes in one place after another. All these things are a beginning of pangs of distress.
Now, this is the funny part here. This is the important part. He's talking not to Christians in general. He's talking to the Jewish people. He's specifically talking to the Jews, okay? Verona Moon, yes, I hear the film portrays. She's talking about the apostate presentation. Good one. Apostate. One. Okay, here we go.
Then people will hand you over to tribulation, and will kill you, and you will be hated by all the nations on account of my name.
Now, what they're trying to do is generalize this to all believers, but it's not. It's specific. This now is speaking specifically about the nation of Israel and the Jews.
Then too many will be stumbled, and will betray one another, and will hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and mislead many, and because of the increasing of lawlessness, the love of the greater number will grow cold.
See how they've put the love of the greater number? It's making it sound the love of the greater number. It just means it's actually, what it's saying is the love of many will grow cold. Love will grow cold amongst humanity. And here it will be amongst the Jews.
But the one who has endured to the end will be saved. And this good news of the kingdom will be preached in all the inhabited earth for a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come.
Now, what's the point? Where did the good news start? It started in Israel, didn't it? It came out from the Jews. So what he's saying is the message has got to spread from this beginning, this central place, Israel, and go out amongst all the earth, and then the end will come. Now let's watch this.
Therefore, when you catch sight of the disgusting thing that causes desolation.
Now that's the Antichrist. We've got to go to a graph. At this point, we've got to go to a graph. Now I found this graph in a split second, okay? The beginning of sorrows. Let me just see if I can narrow or reduce this. Just bear with me. This is how you research. I'm just trying to help the listeners here. Right, yeah, this will work. We can do this. This will work. Bear with me. And I know this isn't the normal presentation, but I'm actually showing you how to study, so bear with me. Now, he talked about the time of sorrows. That was the temple being destroyed in 70 BC, before Christ, okay? This is the beginning of the sorrows. Now it's Israel related. Many will be deceived in Christ's name. There'll be wars and rumours of wars, which there have been, and there'll be famine and pestilences, which there are. Now, it's Christ's followers will be killed, but it's the Israelis specifically that
As
will
spoken
be killed.
about by Daniel the prophet, standing in a holy place, let the reader use discernment.
Right, we've got the false prophets. Now, this is the abomination of desolation that they're talking about here. This is the Antichrist setting himself up in Jerusalem. This is the Antichrist setting himself up in Jerusalem. Okay? Here it is, right here. We've got the love of many have grown cold, and then we've got the gospel trying to get out and be preached. But now it gets specific. It gets very specific here, doesn't it? Because we've got the abomination of desolation, which is the Antichrist setting himself up. Oh, I'm half out of the picture here. Setting himself up in Israel.
Then let those in Judea begin fleeing to the mountains.
Now, see, he's talking about the people in Judea. Right, you've got trouble in Israel. Start fleeing. Get out of there. Okay? Get away from this trouble.
Let the man on the housetop not come down to take the goods out of his house.
This is not talking about general believers. This is talking specifically about Israel, the people in Israel.
And let the man in the field not return to pick up his outer garment. Woe to the pregnant women and those nursing a baby in those days. Keep praying that your flight may not occur in winter time, nor on the Sabbath day.
Now, I'm not sure if the Watchtower people have a Sabbath day, do they? Well, they've got everything else. Have they got a Sabbath? I don't know. Jesus is the Sabbath. But again, it's specific to the Jews. You've got to see this. The Jews are the ones that have the Sabbath. There's a new video out from Mike and Kimmy warning to Bethelites about the internet and alcohol. Okay, there's fresh off the press from Mikey and Kim, warning to the Bethelites about the internet and alcohol. You might want to get over to their channel and look at that. Now, this is specific to the Jews. I've got to get this across. It is not the general believing population. What have I done there? Okay, let's continue.
For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the world's beginning until now.
Now, here's the tribulation. There's two parts to the tribulation. The first 3.5 years is the tribulation. The second 3.5 years is the Great Tribulation, and that's where the trouble's going to start, in the Great Tribulation. Now, I wonder if I can get a little bit more out of this. Yep, let's carry on. This is in the Middle East. This is in Israel, okay? Come on.
No, nor will occur again. In fact, unless those days were cut short, no flesh would be saved. But on account of the chosen ones, those days will be cut short.
Now, see where it's got the chosen ones. Again, it's trying to be very specific, isn't it? But what they're saying is, look, what it's saying is there's people that I need to have saved, in Jews that I want to save. The Jews to God have a special plan outside the church, and it's very hard for us to accept that. But we've only been adopted in. The whole of God's plan, and the people that have paid the biggest price for this are the Jews, isn't it? But we get envious of that, don't we? So he's trying to save the Jews.
Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "There," do not believe it.
Now, these people, the Jehovah Witness Watchtower, whatever it is, they claim that Jesus come back in 1914, and these people believe it. I really don't. So that makes them a false Christ and a false prophet. Now, it's easy for me to get on here and say that, but it's just how it is, isn't it? Whether you want to accept that or not, it's up to you.
For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will perform great signs and wonders so as to mislead, if possible, even the chosen ones.
Now, it says even the elect. Now, this is talking again, not about specific Christians. It's not about general Christians. It's about the people. It's about his people, the Jews. Oh, gee, I know it's hard for
Look,
people to accept
I have
that.
forewarned you. Therefore, if people say to you, Look, he is in the wilderness, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms. Do not believe it.
Now, this is Jesus warning you. He's warning you, saying, do not believe these people when they say to him, he's here or he's there, because his next coming after he leaves the Mount of Olives after he gets crucified, and he goes up to be the high priest and all that, and he sits next to the right hand of God. But his next coming was only going to be as far as the clouds. But they've got him propped up on an armchair somewhere in America. It's absurd.
For just as the lightning comes out of the east and shines over to the west, so the presence of the Son of Man will be. Wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will beat themselves in grief, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a great trumpet sound, and they will gather his chosen ones together from the four winds, from one extremity of the heavens to their other extremity. Now learn this illustration from the fig tree.
Now, what's the fig tree? The fig tree is Israel, okay?
Just as soon as its young branch grows tender and sprouts its leaves, you know that summer is near. Likewise, also you, when you see all these things, know that he is near at the doors. Truly I say to you, that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things happen. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away.
Now, could this have been speaking about the end of the temple? Could he have jumped back and said this is about the end of the temple? Because that generation has passed away and dozens since. So, truly I say to you that this generation will know in the world is in heaven. Well, what did he mean by that? Because they've passed away and gone. So, but then he says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass. Now, Jehovah Witnesses, heaven and earth will pass away. In Revelation 21, this earth's going to be torched. Okay.
Concerning that day and hour, nobody knows, neither the angels of the heavens nor the Son, but only the Father.
Now, I've tried to get a prophecy timeline relative to Matthew 24, and if you see this, it's got Jesus crucified, and of course we are here, and there's a rapture takes place. Now, this is the first half, 3.5 years of the tribulation, and that's Matthew 24, 1 to 15. That's the first half. This is the midpoint of the tribulation when the Antichrist enters Israel and sets himself up. Okay, he comes as what appears to be a good person, and then he disintegrates into an evil person. It is confusing to refer to the rapture as the second coming. These are two distinctly different events. Now, what they mean by that is when the rapture came, and I haven't specifically picked this out, most of the stuff on the internet will have this view on what's going on. Rona Moon, this is real. It is painful to lose your family. Most of this theology will show you this kind of presentation. It's just a matter of whether rapture is going to take place here, and some believe maybe even there, but I don't think there's enough evidence for that rapture to be happening when they're finishing up Armageddon. What I do want to say is believers will not be in the Battle of Armageddon. The ones that are raptured out will not take place in the Battle of Armageddon. They will not be there for that. The only time they're going to see that is the second coming of Christ, which is at the Battle of Armageddon. See, between Jesus going to heaven and then rapturing his people, he doesn't come back until till he ends the Battle of Armageddon. So the church is out. That's the good news. That's the good news of this whole thing. That's the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, whether you're out at the start of the tribulation or between the transition between the tribulation and the great tribulation, that's yet to be seen. But the beauty of it is you will not be in the battle of Armageddon.
For just as the days of Noah were, so the presence of the Son of Man will be.
Now, see that they're saying it's a presence. It's not. It's a coming. It's a coming. It's here. It's a second coming. That's not going to be a presence. That's going to be an event. That's going to be... See, they've tried to put this second coming as somewhere in 1914. But it just doesn't back up. It just doesn't stack up.
As they were in those days before the flood, eating and drinking, men marrying and women being given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they took no note until the flood came and swept them all away. So the presence of the Son of Man will be. Then 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken along, and the other abandoned.
Now see how it's saying one will be taken and the other abandoned. This does allude to the rapture. And what it's trying to say, what Jesus is trying to say is there will be believers and unbelievers. The believers are going to go out. The people that don't want it are going to stay in. I want to say that again. There'll be 2 in the field. One will be taken in the rapture. The other will be left to go through the tribulation. That's the believer being taken and the unbeliever being left.
2 women will be grinding at the handmill. One will be taken along, and the other abandoned.
No one will be abandoned. They've just decided that they don't want to go. So one will be taken, the other one will be left.
Keep on the watch, therefore, because you do not know on what day your Lord is coming.
Now, see how they get you to sort of panic a bit? Oh, keep on the watch. All that really means, all Jesus was saying there was, just believe in me and everything's going to be all right, because that's what the New Testament is, isn't it? It's about the cross. Jesus hadn't gone to the cross yet. Do you get what I'm saying? He hadn't died on the cross yet. The New Testament hadn't been cut. But we have the New Testament now. So if we believe, we're watched. We've done. We're right.
But know one thing. If the householder had known in what watch the thief was coming, he would have kept awake and not allowed his house to be broken into.
Now this makes you start to panic a bit, doesn't it? Because you think you've got to be watching for something and this and that. But when Jesus returns, it's going to just be it's just going to happen. If you believe, you go. If you don't believe, you stay.
On this account, you too prove yourselves ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not think to be it.
Well, now Jesus has died on the cross since then, hasn't he? So salvation's to all those who believe. Now we know that none of this is getting ready to take place yet, because the rapture hasn't happened, has it? And it's so simple. It's just so simple.
Who really is the faithful and discreet slave?
Now, here's the faithful and discreet slave, right? This is how pathetic, and I'm going to say, this is how pathetic this is. It's talking about general believers. It's not talking about an elite group of people or men. It's talking about who is a faithful and discreet believer, whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them food at the proper time. Happy is the slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. For goodness sake. All it's talking about is believing.
Whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time. Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. Truly
Basically, if you believe, you're going to be saved. Can't see where the governing body come up with they're the faithful and discreet slave. It's talking about the universal
he will
body
appoint
of
him
believers.
over all his belongings. But if ever that evil slave says in his heart, my master is delaying.
Now, this is the funny thing about it. You've got the faithful and discreet slave, or you've got an evil slave. Now, the evil slave says, my master is delaying in coming. Now, you think about it for a minute. The Watchtower bit the bullet and said, right, we're just going to go for 1914. They couldn't wait. They forced a doctrine onto people that wasn't true. They forced Jesus to arrive before he was supposed to. They didn't want him to be delaying any further, and they did it based on a doctrine, didn't they? So they've basically done this themselves. They're evil.
And he starts to beat his fellow slaves, and to eat and drink with the confirmed drunkards. The master of that slave will come on a day that he does not expect, and in an hour that he does not know.
And that's exactly what's going to happen to the Watchtower people. And Christians as well, because nobody knows when he's going to come. He said that at the start. He said, don't presume, you're just not going to know. But if you believe in the finished work of Christ, you're going to be fine. If you don't believe, you're going through the great tribulation and great tribulation. And then right up until Armageddon, and Jesus will come back and save Israel in Armageddon.
And he will punish him with the greatest severity, and will assign him his place with the hypocrites. There is where his weeping and the gnashing of his teeth will be.
So that's Matthew 24 on the subject of Armageddon. The point is, people who believe, let's just go to, oh, what have I done? Okay, that's cool, keep our composure. So, with this graph again, if you believe, you're out. If you don't believe, you'll probably be gnashing your teeth a bit, going through the tribulation and all the horror that's going to come with that. But the Battle of Armageddon has nothing to do with anybody that believes in Jesus Christ. And that's the good news. Now, whether you want to believe that or not, it's completely up to you. It really makes no difference to me, because I don't care. I'm not going through because I believe. But there's all this stuff, isn't there, that you can just Google. Get on Google and find out what's going on. Like the Jehovah Witnesses don't even think there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. What are they going to do? Just jump off and float in outer space or something until what are they going to do? No, I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to have to go here. You've got to get out. You've got to get out at the rapture, right? You've got to let all this take place against Israel. And then Jesus comes back and stops Armageddon. You've got the sheep and goat nation judgment. Who stuck up for Israel and who didn't? Like I don't think the Jehovah Witnesses have got any special respect for the Jews or Israel at all, have they? I don't know. Let me know about that. And then you've got the 1,000 year of Christ's reign, and Satan gets out at the end and all this stuff. But all of this has got nothing to do with believers. Anybody that believes in the finished work of Christ, all of that's got nothing to do with them. So that's the good news, folks. You're getting sold a lot of lies, and it just takes a little bit of homework to find out that Armageddon, let's just look at this again, really has nothing to do with believers, because the believers are out. They're out. They're up at the marriage supper of the Lamb, getting ready for the second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ is to stop Israel being destroyed, the nation of Israel being destroyed, annihilated in the Battle of Armageddon. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. Take it or leave it. Look, I'm not forcing this on anybody. I've just put it out there. Bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.